Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Bagger Build, where we are totally customizing this 2013 Street Glide. Let me show you what we got going on today. This is the air filter the bike came with. It is a Vance & Hines, but I'm not a real big fan of this air filter. It just looks plain and unfinished, and you're not getting the air coming in through the face here, so you're only getting air around the outside here. The bike also came with a pair of Vance & Hines duals. You'll see back here, you got the two pipes. And what we're going with today is a set of Vance & Hines 2-in-1. Got them right over here in the box there. Let me show you the air filter we're going with here. Also Vance & Hines. I like to keep everything under the same brand. You don't have to. This is the one we went with here. This is a great looking piece. You can see I'm getting airflow on the sides and in the front. So that's very cool. And we're also doing the Vance & Hines fuel pack, is what it looks like here. Really easy thing to install. And it's a good idea to do this because when you're doing exhaust and air filter, you're changing your mixture and your fuel and your air. So we'll tune the bike with that. Doing your air filter and your exhaust is fairly easy. I mean, I would think, you know, an average mechanic, a couple hours tops. And if you want to see everything that's been done in this bike so far, go to the playlist, the Ultimate Bagger Build. All the videos are there. Let me show you real quick what we've done. Performance Machine wheels. Look at that beautiful 21-inch wheel. Performance Machine high performance brake rotors. Went with the Russ Wernemann front fender. Love the way that wraps. Performance Machine foot controls. Platforms here. I love the new Black Ops finish of this. You got your brake pedal there. Set of their foot pegs for your passenger. You can't see them right now, but I do have a set of Russ Wernemann shocks on here. The piggyback reservoir shocks. Those work awesome. If you go up here, you can see a whole new dash from the guys over at Fathead Cycles. We got the Sony 7000 head unit, all new gauges from Dakota Digital. Fathead Cycles also hooked us up with Rockford Fosgate speakers for here and the bag kit. So the stereo sounds awesome now. Let's fire things up just so you can take a look. These gauges are awesome. You can change all the colors of every aspect of the gauge. I got mine set for red, so at night it just looks awesome. RSD hooked us up with some grips, and those are super nice. I love those grips. Performance Machine mirrors. We got the National Cycle windscreen there, which works so much better than those low ones. And there is a ton more stuff to do on this bike, so make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when videos come out. Let's get busy. I want to start with the easy part first, so let's get the new air filter system on. And then we'll pull off the running board here, get the exhaust off and get the new exhaust on there. Oh, one thing I wanted to check with you guys. Let's measure the diameter of this exhaust here across the back here. You're looking at about 3.5 inches, and they just look small to me. I want something beefier. So I haven't even pulled the new exhaust out of the bike yet, but when we do, I can almost guarantee you it's gonna be bigger than that. And we'll also do a sound test after we get it on. Now let's get busy. I also want to thank the sponsors of Vance & Hines for hooking me up with all this cool stuff. So thank you guys. Now you'll see how fast you can take off and swap out your air cleaner. It's super, super easy. I mean, everyone's different, but they're all basically the same. These right here, these are some vent lines. So just pop off these hoses. Look at that. It's already off. Now we're going to remove these because I don't think they're going to be used again. They might be. If they are, I'll just put them back on. I haven't torn into the Vance & Hines air filter yet. See exactly what components it has. All right, done. All right, so here's everything that comes in the box. You got your faceplate, you got your air filter element, which I don't know what brand this is. It's like the K&N style. Your backing plate, your 4 standoffs. This is called the aluminum Venturi. You'll see where that goes. You got your gasket, another backing plate. I supplied the blue Loctite. Mounting screws, you will need a 12.5/16 socket to get this done. And you got your breather hoses and the bolts for the breather hoses here, just like the ones we took out. You also got a full set of directions here. Really simple stuff. Let's get it on the bike. All right, so the first things we're going to do is we're going to attach the gasket here this spacer plate here. We've got the backing plate, and then this aluminum venturi. And what you want to make sure of, especially with this backing plate, is you don't have it upside down or backwards. You can see here it's got nuts on the back side. So look at this faceplate. The faceplate has the wide holes on the right hand side. So you obviously want this to be like that, not like that. That's got the small holes, or close together holes on the front side. So we want it like this. So what we do, this is kind of tricky because you only got two hands, but you got your gasket first. So we're just going to kind of hold that in our hand like that. Then you got your spacer plate. Then you want these two notches on the top. They're for the two vent holes. Then you got your backing plate here. And just kind of line everything up. Then you got your venturi here. It's got the two notches on top too for the vent holes. So let's kind of hold that in place. Take one of our bolts, which has already got Loctite on it. Let's just slide that through. Make things easier to line up. The hole's a little tight for the bolt in the venturi here. So I'm just kind of threading it through. Once you get one in, just line up your backing plate, spacer plate, like that. Grab your gasket, put it on there, and then we'll just line up the other two. Makes life a little easier that way. The holes in these venturi, this venturi here is a little tight. Oh, before we put it on, let's get our vent hoses in place. Just kind of feed these through the hole. It's a little snug. Like that. And then you're just going to flip this over like this. Push all the way through. So it's like that. And you got your hose coming out the back like that. Alright, so this is our base plate assembly. You got the venturi on top. We got our two vent hoses in place. We've got our spacer plate and our gasket. And just the two top bolts just to line things up and get things started. And don't tighten any of these three bolts until you get all three in. Venturi, those are so tight. And then you just attach your two hoses to those vent bolts we put in earlier. Done. Now we just got our air filter element, the face plate. You got your four standoffs here and your four bolts. And I already got Loctite on the bolts, so we'll just put a bolt through here, put on a standoff. These can go, I'm going to put the wider flange, the bigger flange against the backing plate here. It looks better that way. And then just hand tighten it. And then we'll just do this one here. Good. Let's get that a little tighter. Feels like it's barely even started in there. And there she is. Thing of beauty. All right, let's pull this exhaust out and see what we got. All right, guys, so here's what you get. Here's your 2-in-1 pipe. You got your heat shields, which are black, obviously, to cover the chrome. Heat shield that goes back here. Another heat shield here for the 2-in-1 split. Mounting bracket, another little bracket here. All your clamps for holding on your heat shields. Muffler clamp, some hardware here. And then here's the beast right here. Look at this thing. Whew, that is huge. Love it. Let's mount it up. All right, so first thing I'm going to do here is remove the slip-ons. So you just got, obviously I've already got the bags out of the way. 2 bolts here, 2 bolts on the other side. Then right about here you'll have your clamp. And then this you just want to crack it loose. You don't have to take it all the way off. But you want to get it really loose. Now I've had these off recently, so hopefully they're not too tight. But normally if you just wiggle it up and down, sideways, kind of break it free. Put the bike in gear. I want the bike coming off the lift. There we go. So let's go ahead and remove the running board. This front bolt here, I have a nut on, well, there's a nut on the back side. Mine's 9/16. So we'll just oh, wrong bolt, Motopilot. Here we go. I know you guys can't really see in here, but there's obviously two nuts holding the exhaust flanges on. This cylinder here, the one in the front. What I'm using here is I have a deep 1/2-inch socket, I have a swivel, and then I have a long extension, and then of course my ratchet to get in there. You don't need to have a deep socket, that's what I have and what I want to use. Swivel is nice. Wow, that thing's not even that tight. Look at that. You always pray that these things aren't that tight and they're not going to snap off. Wow, those weren't even that tight at all. I haven't touched these since I bought the bike used. Obviously I bought it used, several months ago. Well, shoot, that one was easy. Now the very front nut here, you're going to want to use a 1/2-inch wrench because there isn't a lot of space there. Be careful not to scratch your front fender. Yeah, wow, luckily that wasn't that tight either. Then this other front nut, you should be able to get on it with your socket here. Wow, none of these were all that tight, which is good, but bad too, I didn't hear any exhaust leaks. And then your crossover pipe, it's got a bracket down here to hold it in place. Very easy to get at. And then this should be the last mounting bracket here. I've got a 1/2-inch wrench. There's 2 bolts here on the back side. A little bit hard to get at, but I took off the passenger foot peg just to have a little more clearance for moving my wrench. So you'll also have a O2 sensor back here, so take that off. It's a 9/16 wrench. Not too bad. And then you'll have 2 more lower bolts down on this bracket here for the crossover pipe. You know what I just realized, rather than jacking with these bolts here, this bracket mounts to the motor with these 2 bolts right here. So let's just take those out. Don't forget, you also have another sensor right here on this pipe here. So be careful when you loosen it. It's going to want to drop down. You don't want to pull these wires. Now that it's off, it's easier to get this bracket out of the way so I can get that other sensor up out of the pipe. All right, guys, I do recommend changing out the exhaust gaskets. I bought a pair at the dealership with new flange nuts for around 26 bucks. You can find them cheaper online. Just pull them out, take a flathead screwdriver, pry out the old one, and you can destroy it if you want, slide in the new ones. One thing we'll be doing is reusing the flange here along with this clip. This clip holds the flange in place. So hopefully you got a nice pair of these clip pliers. You can just put it right there, spread it open. Come on, baby. There you go. There you go. And then just slide this off. Make sure you got the side with the recess right here facing toward the cylinder. So we're going to put these on the new pipes. Okay, let's go ahead and install this bracket down here. You're going to use the same bolts that were holding in your stock system or your previous system. So let's throw a little bit of Loctite on these bad boys. Bolt it on and torque it 13 to 16 pounds, foot-pounds, of course. So next step is to install the heat shields onto the pipes. Make sure you got the heat shield laying on like a towel or something soft. I have carpet here. Let's go ahead and lay this in place right here. We're doing the long one first, though it doesn't really matter what order you do them in. Now I have the heat shield marked with tape. You can see here I put a piece of tape at the center of each clamp position. So that'll help me see what I got to do if I need to see it from the outside. And then I want the access to this clamp to be from the bottom. So I want to make sure when I'm done, I have it like this. So I'm just going to feed it. You know, obviously this is unscrewed, and then just kind of open it up like that. And then just slide it in there. Feed it through like that. And that's one there. And then you just do that in 4 different places. I do recommend using a socket to tighten down these clamps. I'm using a 7mm. Flathead screwdriver will work too, but you know, it could slip off and scratch something. And as I said, you don't want to tighten these down just yet. I'm just getting them snug. Okay, so let me explain which hose clamps go where. This is called the collector back here. So you've got these 4, these are the number 24 clamps in 4 positions. And then up front here, here, and here in 3 positions are the number 20 clamps. So make sure you don't get those wrong. The number 24s are the skinnier ones. These are more like a normal width hose clamp here. So at this point here, the heat shields are on. They're not tight, they're just in place. Okay, now at this point here, I've got the collector heat shield on too, with these 2 number 24 clamps. Let me show you what's going on the other side. You want to make sure that everything's flush. I see a little gap right here, but I'm thinking once I get this, you know, more in place with the muffler, this will straighten out here. So make sure you try to keep these gaps to a minimum. These are about ready to be installed, but we got to put these flanges back on. These are the ones that came off the previous pipes. Remember this groove right here, you want it facing the engine. So slide this on first. Then you're just going to take your clip with your clip pliers and reinstall it. That wasn't too bad. Make sure it's snapped on all the way. And now you've got this ready to go. Do that for both head pipes. Okay, what I've got here is something that's really nice to have. Permatex anti-seize for threads in hot locations. I've already put anti-seize on each of the 4 studs in the cylinder. Just put a little bit on your finger. You don't need much of this stuff at all. And we're also going to use it on these sensors. Look at the rust on that. I'm going to clean those threads off a little bit first, and then I'm going to come back with some anti-seize. Let's grab a metal brush. Let's clean them up a little bit with a wire brush. And then just throw a little anti-seize on there. It'll make life so much easier for next time. All right, so I got a nice towel sitting here to lay the pipes on. Just grab these, lay them down with the heat shields down so we can install the 2 sensors. What you want to do is you want to pre-twist them the opposite direction. So when you thread them in, there's not a twist in the wire. Got your other one here. Pre-twist it. Don't have to pre-twist it a lot. And then we'll just tighten those down. 9/16 wrench. And you don't need to crank down on these, just get them nice and snug. All right, they tell you not to tighten down these clamps right now, but I went ahead and did it anyways. If I need to loosen them up to adjust it, I can do that on the bike. What we're going to do now is install the pipes using the 4 new nuts I bought at the Harley dealership. And these are the old ones here. You can see they're pretty old and crusty, and it's just a good idea to put fresh ones on. You don't need to, but I was there, so I figured I'd get them. So let's see if we can get this in place. If you have a buddy around, it's a good idea to have another set of hands, because like right now, I'm really concerned I might scratch something. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put a rag right here. There's a lot of metal up here. If the pipe comes down and hits that, it's gonna scratch it, so let's just put that there. Put a little bit of tape on the frame here near the front. Tape is a little more forgiving than metal. It's not very thick, but it is forgiving. So now that we have this protected, let's go ahead and get the exhaust up mounted to the engine. Really wish I had someone here to help me with this. Wife's out buying a new mountain bike. All my friends are doing whatever they're doing on a Sunday. So just kind of get the flange lined up and at least get one nut on. So that's the ideal method. All right, guys, here's an idea that'll help you get the nuts on the studs in the cylinder. I have this nut just stuck to a magnetic stick like that. So it's really hard to get your fingers in there and finagle these around and get them started on the threads. I mean, you can, but this one here in the front on this side is really tight. So I'm gonna see if this works. The magnetic stick works wonders. Just at least get the nut in position, and then you can just take your finger and just kind of spin it on. Take your time, you'll get it. Now we have the mounting bracket that's right in this location here. Comes with this piece here. This is gonna slide into between the pipe and the bracket like this, and then the bolts come in through the exhaust this way here. It's gonna be a little tight in there, but it's not too bad. Of course, you can't see anything. Now we're getting to the good stuff. We're gonna install the muffler here with the heat shield. I've got these locations marked with tape, but didn't really need to do that. I've got a towel here so nothing will scratch. Take these clamps. I've already got one installed, the smaller one. This one's the bigger one, obviously for the bigger area here. What I do is I just loosen these up all the way. And I just kind of spread them apart. And then I usually take this end here and I kind of flatten it a little bit like that. And that way it's much easier to get it started going through these clamp brackets. Careful not to let this end here scratch your heat shield. So just get those two in there like that. You can even start them a little bit because this is going to slide on from the end. Slide it from the end. Don't, obviously you have to slide it from the end because the clamps are in place. So just slide it like that. Come back here with the Torca clamp. Just slide that on like so. Up here, you've got your two mounting bolts here. You're going to use the stock flange that's right here where the two bolts go through. So at this point we should be able to put this whole assembly on. Everything's in there, nothing's tight. I'm just going nice and slow, kind of turning it as I go. I don't want to scratch anything up here. I don't want to scratch anything back here. I'm going to put a little bit of tape right here between the pipe and this heat shield because it's kind of pushing against it and I don't want to scratch it. Let's just put a couple pieces right here. Anything to do to keep from scratching this thing before day one, Now this can come back all at once and it won't do any damage. Anything to do to keep from scratching this thing before day one, Now this can come back all at once and it won't do any damage. I shouldn't have tightened this one yet because it's pulling it tight against the pipe and I can't get this. This has to go underneath this shield. So I'll loosen this, slide it on. I'm going to put the two stock bolts back in this location here, and then we'll be scot-free. Let me show you something here I had a problem with. I couldn't get this clamp, once everything was assembled, I couldn't get this clamp between the exhaust muffler here and this piece here, because this radius is too tight. It was either hitting here or here. I even tried loosening these up all the way. Could not get this clamp to slide on. So I just had to loosen this up all the way and just pop it off, slide this on, clamp this down. Now I need to pop this back on and get these clamps back in place. So that's the trouble I ran into. It's because of this radius right here. So now I'm just putting the stock bolts back in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down because everything's pretty much in place. So I'm just going to go through and tighten these down, tighten up the nuts up at the cylinders, tighten up the bracket about midway back. Basically tighten everything down, make sure every heat shield clamp's tight, and wrap it up. And then once that's all tight, we'll get to the floorboard. After I got everything tightened down on the exhaust system, I went ahead and started the bike. Let it run for a little bit, crack the throttle a couple times. You want to make sure there's no exhaust leaks before you get too far putting the floorboard back on. Let it run for a little bit, crack the throttle a couple times. You want to make sure there's no exhaust leaks before you get too far putting the floorboard back on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this spacer on here. It takes the floorboard, pulls it away from the exhaust. This came with the kit. To do that, we just remove this one bolt here. Oh, there's already a spacer there. Look at that. Huh. That must have been from the previous Vance & Hines kit. All right, so getting the floorboard just right's a little tricky. I recommend putting some tape back here to protect your heat shield. I had to use their spacer they gave me plus 2 more spacers, and this bolt right here. And this bolt right here, I have 1 spacer pulling it away from the frame. And that seemed to do the trick for my bike. But make sure you keep an eye on that because you don't want your floorboard even close to your exhaust. I have at least 1/4 inch clearance. So let's compare the old exhaust to the new one. Here's the old one at 3.5 inches. There's the new one at 4.5. Looks so much meaner, right? Let's fire it up and hear it. Alright, so here's how the kit looks completely installed. Looks awesome, I love it. Sounds amazing. We'll have to get on the bike and take it for a ride. What I want to do real quick is explain to you why a 2-into-1 performs better than a dual exhaust. What a 2-into-1 does is it does a thing called scavenging. In other words, each cylinder is assisting the other cylinder. For example, as this piston's coming up and pushing air out, it's also forcing air into this pipe here to some degree, which makes that piston having to work less hard. So each piston is doing less work to make the engine create more horsepower. All right, guys, so now we're going to do the fuel pack. Just like I said before, we have more air coming into the bike with the air cleaner. We have new exhaust, so it's really good to do a tune on these bikes after you've done that. So we got a little pamphlet here for the fuel pack installation guide, and make sure you download the app. And this right here will show you where the connector is located on your bike. On this 2013 Street Glide, it's on the left-hand side. Bag's already off, cover's off. It's this gray connector right here. So we're just going to plug the fuel pack in. Make sure it's all the way in till it clicks. So we got that there. Next step is to turn the ignition to the on position and handlebar switch to run. So you got your guide for Android. I have an iPhone. So we'll go here to iOS guide. Make sure you got your Bluetooth on. Let's go ahead and boot it up. Okay, it already connected. Firmware is up to date. And you can see here we got activity here with the fuel pack. Search for map, view and edit maps, map optimizations, view sensor data, maintenance. So let's go here to search for a map. First one at the top, as you can see here, they have all these different exhausts. Tons of them. So we'll go to Vance and Hines. And then you choose which one you have. Okay, this 2-in-1 is the Pro Pipe. Black, Chromer Black's the same, so we just hit that. Engine size, 103. So results, Vance and Hines, Pro Pipe Black, standard baffle, stock 103 with high flow air filter. So that's already kind of keyed into the system here. So now I'm going to go into map optimizations and let's check throttle sensitivity. So I already went in and did this. I set it up for aggressive because I like my throttle really snappy. But you can choose race, aggressive, moderate, standard plus. I'm going to leave mine at aggressive. So that's already set. If I was to change that, let's see if we do what happens if I want to go to that race. So let's go back. Please be aware that your motorcycle's responsiveness will be different after flashing changes to your throttle progressivity settings. So start out by riding with an extra caution. So in other words, when you make your throttle more snappy, it's just saying get ready for it because it's going to be different. Beware. So I'm not going to mess around with any of this other stuff. Decel pop, idle RPM, camshaft, engine displacement, which it's already set up properly. Done. So I did a map already on the bike because I had the Vance and Hines duals. Now I want to remap it for the Vance and Hines 2-in-1 Pro Pipe. So let's just go to search for a map. All kinds of exhaust here, many brands. Let's just use Vance and Hines. Find the one that you have. Mine is called the Pro Pipe. This is the Pro Pipe. Engine size 103. Found a map right here. Vance and Hines, Pro Pipe, blah, blah, blah. You'll see a little arrow to the right there. It's hard to see. Tap that. And it comes up. It's got my exhaust. It already automatically tunes for the air filter, so you don't have to worry about that. Then down here, see here, air filter, high flow. Program bike with this map. So just tap that. You know, some warnings there. Continue. So right now it's transferring the map. And don't forget, I got the key switch on. You leave that on the whole time. Now it's doing the flash. Hear that? Turn bike off for 30 seconds. It's nice that it has that timer on there. Turn bike on. It's reconnecting to the Bluetooth. I just programmed my bike with FP3. That was easy. And it's done. So just turn your bike off, unplug it, put your covers back on, and go ride it. Alright guys, so I was going to do a test ride without the bags on, just do a quick ride. But then I realized I can't test my music without my saddlebags because of the speakers in the bags. So I ran back, put the bags on. That'll be a more accurate test. Now, first thing I noticed right away, wow, definitely sounds meaner, louder, more throaty, more echoey, like there's less in there, less of a baffle in there than what I had before. Now, the bad part about that is I like to be able to hear my music. I like to ride without earplugs. And the wife on the back, I don't want to blow her ears out either. So we'll give it a chance first before we make that call. but it is definitely a bit louder than what I had before. I like that snap, crackle, pop on deceleration. That's cool. Got a little bit of back pressure volume. Sounds awesome, man. I'll give it that. Let's turn up the music and see how it affects the music. Alright, so my first reaction there is the higher volume is obviously battling with the music. For me, I think with a little bit I've tested of it just now, I would probably go with a quieter baffle, just because over time, you know, I'm going to get tired of the higher volume and I'm going to want to hear my music a little more. I do like to hear the bike, but I like to hear the music too. Like right now, cruising, it's not too bad. Let's give it a chance. Alright, that is definitely more tolerable, you know, when you're not on the gas hard and the volume of the bike is up. If you're just cruising along, the music, it sounds fine. And fortunately, Vance & Hines does offer a quieter baffle for this exhaust if you want it. So it's nice to know we got that option. I'll say this, I don't know what's going on, but the throttle doesn't feel as snappy as when I had the duals. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I screwed up on the fuel pack and changed the throttle setting, but it's a little sluggish. Get up here to a straightaway and we'll give her a power test. Regarding the air filter, I love it, man. It's a low profile. It does not get in the way of my leg at all. So, you know, if you get a really wide air filter, you're going to be like, man, this thing is in my way. Man, popping. I like it. Yeah, I think what I need to do is, I think what I need to do is go back, plug in the FP3, double check, make sure the tune is all dialed in. Something feels off, but we'll get it figured out. All right, let me shut off here and I'll get back to you guys. All right, guys, we are back. I took the bike back to the house. I replugged in the tuner, the FP3, and there was a problem. I somehow had set the throttle response to custom, which I don't even know what the custom settings would have been. Before I did the tune, I had the throttle set at aggressive. So I went ahead and beefed it up even snappier to the race 1-to-1 throttle setting, which to me I guess means there shouldn't be any hesitation in the throttle at all. Normally I would have just edited out all that previous footage and just went straight to this and told you my impressions, but I want to let you guys know that, hey, double check your tune. If you're not impressed with it, go back in, plug it in. It only takes 5 minutes. Double check your settings. You may have the same issue that I had because I was freaking out. Let's check it out. Definitely feels snappier. Thank God. That's what I'm talking about. If I put a cam in the bike, I can also
go back in and set the settings for that cam, which I definitely plan to do, because I'm reading these cams will give you like 35 to 40 more horsepower. It almost sounds surreal. Anyhow, I love the pipe. I love the way it looks. Nice beefy round, 2-in-1, looks sweet. It's got a great finish. I do love the way it sounds right now, but I am going to contact Vance & Hines and test out the quieter baffle. But this thing sounds very mean, very throaty, very racy. You know, if I was doing a performance build, I'd be all over this exhaust exactly the way it is. I love the air filter. It's a gorgeous piece. It's low profile. It's got plenty of air coming in. And super stoked on that. And the FB3 is very easy to use, very user-friendly. Definitely something you're going to want to get if you're doing an air filter and exhaust. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button for the next build video, because there's a lot more to come. And we'll catch you next time.